Welcome. Now, I am going to cover the peer review process. We have seen the introduction. Next is the step is called as peer review process. How to do the peer review process? What are the basic things that we must concentrate on the peer review? And introduction of peer review process. That is, a reviewer has to understand the process and plan the peer review accordingly. So, who is going to do the peer review? It is the reviewer. So, he must understand the process and he has to plan to do how to do the peer review. And I'm going to discuss a step-by-step process of peer review. So, this is a very, very important thing. And from this, we can do the peer review. And before going to that, once again, I'll tell the eligibility of the peer reviewer. So only the person who fulfill the conditions that is stated in para 10 of the statement of peer review board, he is eligible to be appointed as the peer reviewer. That is, he should be a member in practice. Suppose you should have a minimum of 10 years of practice in to do the peer review of a level 1, and to do level 2 peer review, you should be in a practice of minimum of 7 years. And if he moves from the employment, and he should be in the employment of for 15 years, and he should be in practice for 5 years to do the peer review of level 1. And for a peer review of level 2, you should be in the employment or industry for at least 10 years, and you should be in practice for the 3 years. And he should have undergone the proper training and all the, that is the only chartered accountant eligible to become a peer reviewer. And he has to undergo a training conducted by the peer review board, and he has to pass the peer review examination conducted by ICAI. Then only he will be appointed as either peer reviewer for level 1 or level 2. And you should be in audit for at least 7 years, and you should furnish a declaration in the prescribed form that I will act as the peer reviewer, and declaration of confidentiality is also a must one. And the experience as stated in point number 3, that is nothing but, suppose if he is in continuous employment and he may shift from one company to another company, so it should be only cumulative and it need not be continuous. This point you have to bear in mind. And audit experience, if it is less than 2 years, then they will not be considered for the level of 1 peer review or level 2 of peer review. This is a basic thing about the peer review. And what's the ineligible? These persons are not eligible to be appointed as peer review. Suppose in case if there is any disciplinary action or proceedings are pending against him, so it need not be that just by sending the notice also he is not eligible. Suppose if he has already been found guilty of misconduct, then even it may be some 10 years back or 15 years back, there also he is not eligible to be appointed as the peer reviewer. And if any court punished him, competent court punished him towards moral turpitude, so there also he is not eligible to be appointed as peer reviewer. And if any of the partners of your peer reviewer firm has got any obligation in the practice unit, so practice unit is a firm or individual chartered accountants. So if he has got any interest in it, then they are not eligible to be appointed as a peer reviewer. And if you are a member and you are a member of peer reviewer, then if you are an article clerk of that practice unit, then there also you will not be eligible to be appointed as the peer reviewer. And decline to accept peer review. Suppose if you point out this, or if you are in this track, then you have to decline to accept the peer review. That is, we have got ill health or other preoccupations or conflict of interest between a reviewer and a practice unit, which poses a threat to reviewer's independence, that is due to past association, then he must decline to get the appointment as a peer reviewer for that unit. And a reviewer should not accept any professional assignment from the practice unit for a period of 2 years from the date of appointment, or 2 years before the date of appointment. That is, from today, not after 2 years, before 2 years. You are not supposed to get any peer review appointment. And you can get assistance. So that means you can do the peer review on your own, but you can get the assistance from another CA also. For that, it is permitted. First thing, one can ask whether it is permitted. Yes, it is permitted. And such member does not attract any disqualification as already stated. We have given a disqualified statement because only a member can be allowed to do the peer review. So you can get the help from another CA, and that member should not get any disqualification. And name of the qualified assistant. Here the qualified assistant is CA. And whom you are going to appoint, that has to be informed to the board as well as to the practice unit, because he is going to represent me. So this you have to give before the commencement of peer review, and that means during peer review you are not allowed to get the assistant from another CA. Such a qualified assistant has to sign the declaration of confidentiality. As usual, he has to sign the declaration of confidentiality. And QA, that is qualified assistant, has no direct interface either with the practice unit or board. So they should not have direct interface. So they are not allowed. And the qualified assistant from the firm of the reviewer as a partner or paid assistants as per the request. So that means you should be a partner or paid assistant of the peer reviewer firm. So they are eligible to be appointed as the qualified assistants to help you. And here, how the units have been selected. That is level 1 and level 2 practice unit. We will discuss later what is level 1 and level 2. And peer review is required once in 3 years for level 1 and 4 years for level 2. So that means this is valid only for 3 years. So every 3 years, peer review has to be conducted on level 1 and level 2. And newly established, suppose if it is a newly established one, then with the sample size and as decided by the board, then peer review can also be undertaken. And in case if other than the once in 3 years, if the board feels that the shorter duration is also required, yes, it is also permitted. Then peer review can also be taken for that. Then practice unit can also apply on its own. Sir, can you come and do the peer review? It is also permitted by the peer review board. And client asks the board to conduct peer review. Suppose if your client asks the board, that is peer review board, sir, can you conduct the audit peer review for my auditor? Yes, that is also permitted. So it is not only you, even your client also can ask the peer review board to conduct the peer review. And board action, say on receipt of this, then the board has to take action within 30 days of the receipt of the letter. And in case if there is any special direction, special review direction is received from ICAI secretary or disciplinary committee, yes, the peer review has to be conducted for that level 1 or level 2. That is also. Now, appointment of reviewer. Here, how to appoint a reviewer? So, peer review board select the practice unit for peer review. So, first thing, peer review board, they select the practice unit, and this has to be intimated by board to the practice unit that your firm is going to be covered under the peer review. Then the practice unit, they have to give declaration saying that yes, we are ready to face the peer review. This is a declaration they have to give. After that, the peer review board can select any 3 of the peer reviewers from its panel. Any 3 of the peer reviewers from its panel, and they write to the peer review reviewers and for the acceptance. Suppose if we appoint, can you do the peer review? And after getting the declaration, then these peer reviewers consent is being informed to the practice unit. Then among the 3 peer reviewers, the practice unit has to select only 1 peer reviewer and from the list of 3, and they have to inform the board within 10 days of such intimation. That is, the peer review board, they are sending a list of 3 peer reviewers. Among 3, 1 has to be selected, and this has to be intimated to the board within 10 days of the peer review. And the peer review board has to intimate the peer reviewers. Then after that, the board has to inform the peer reviewers. So, and peer reviewers, they have to give their consent within 7 days. So, after getting this, then the peer reviewers' consent has to be forwarded to the practice unit, because practice unit they have, because they only choose the peer reviewer, and their consent is their direction is being accepted, and peer review board, they have given the information, they have given the, they have forwarded the consent of the peer reviewer to the practice unit, and the practice unit has to submit the following information within 15 days. Yes, now peer reviewer is being appointed. Now practice unit has to submit the following information to the peer reviewers. That is duly, there's a question format that's being prescribed by the board. This question format also we will discuss in the next presentation. And complete list of assurance services about the client. That is, what are the nature of services provided, what's the fees charged, and period under review. Period under review we discussed. What are the nature of services? Everything has the practice unit has to submit to the peer reviewers. And what are the notes and note on policies and procedures adopted by practice unit? That is for independence, staff supervision, development process generally followed for assurance services, etc. Note on policies. So this is a policy based on which we are doing this practice. Everything has to be given in writing to the peer reviewers by the practice units. And the details of any proceedings against practice units, the partners, qualified assistants associated with such. Suppose if there is any proceedings pending on, if there is anything wrong against the practice unit, that means they have to be transferred. They have to be transferred, and they have to give all the proceeding details to the peer reviewers about the practice unit, about the partners of the qualified assistants. And after this, then the peer reviewer has to plan and do it. And the practice unit has to submit the details of head office and all its branches in the questionnaire. That is, what all the branches they got, where that the head office is there, what are the number of branches, and everything they have to give in the in detail in the questionnaire format that's being prescribed by the board. And practice unit has to submit the client name individually. Suppose if all the these are, they are all my following clients, they are my clients, and we have already given, the member has already given the confidentiality that we will not reveal the secrecy. And the practice unit, sometimes they will give the client name individually. Sometimes due to some voluminous work, what they will do, they have some client number and code, and there's a separate register. Suppose if they can furnish the same thing, that is about the client number and code, and these are the details that they have to submit to the to the peer reviewers. Questionnaire made the peer reviewer to understand about the PU, because when you submit the questionnaire, what is the purpose of the questionnaire? It will make the peer reviewer to understand about the practice unit, and it helps the peer reviewer to plan and execute the peer review without any problem. So the questionnaire contains everything about the practice unit. So all the details have been submitted by the practice unit to the peer reviewer, so that the peer reviewer can come to any conclusion, can do any sort of planning to conduct the peer review. And what's a sample? Sometimes the peer reviewer cannot go and do the work directly. They will pick some sample. So if they pick the sample, that will cover the entire total population of the. So within 15 days of practice unit information, so within 15 days, the reviewer shall make a selection of audit or assurance files, and selection of files at the entirely of the selection of files. It is the sole discretion of the reviewer. Which file he has to select, that is the sole discretion of the reviewer. He can select any file, and reviewers' selection of files must adhere to the minimum sample criteria as specified by the board. So board has given some specification later, and the selection of files will also adhere to the minimum sample criteria. And selection is based on the following guidance. However, peer reviewer select the file sample, size of the entities of operation, what is the size, and nature of the industry, because suppose if you are if the practice unit is doing steel industry, based on that you can prepare the, you can file the, you can get the sample thing. And the reviewer's initial impression of the quality control environment of the practice unit. So suppose if the reviewer feels that this practice unit is not good, and they are not following any procedure or guidelines, then the peer reviewer can do the verification in a very big sample size. And what's the number of branches that practice unit has got? Suppose if it has got 15 branches, how to do it? So everything will, that is sample size will depend on the number of branches as well as the number of audit partners. How many partners are there in the practice unit? That also forms the base for the peer reviewer to select the sample. And after selection and before his visit to practice unit, he has to intimate that we have selected this unit as this is a sample size, and he has to inform this both to the practice unit as well as to the board that I have selected the sample. Peer reviewer has selected the sample. Then prior intimation to practice unit makes the unit to prepare all the required details. So suppose if you have selected some X unit, then all the details of X unit have to be submitted by the practice unit to the peer reviewer. So the time must be given. So they say that at least 15 days is required to be given by the peer reviewer to the practice unit to prepare the records. And the reviewer and practice unit must mutually cooperate. So both because it's an open secrecy, both the practice unit as well as the peer reviewer, they have to cooperate, and they have to complete the peer review process within 90 days from the date of notification. And this is a very, very important thing. So they have to complete the peer review within 90 days. And now, so far we have seen the samples and completion of the peer review. And now, to do the branches of peer review. The reviewer to examine the head office and branches of quality control such location. So he has to go to the branch, he has to go to the head office. So the peer reviewer can do the verification of records of practice unit. But if the turnover from assurance services from your branch, if they say that from your branch, if it exceeds 25 lakhs, then the personal visit of the reviewer is a must one, it's a mandatory one. He has to go to each and every branch where the turnover from the assurance services has exceeded 25 lakhs. So it's a very, very important thing that you are. And with the turnover is less than 25 lakhs, then it is an option to the reviewer that he can ask the branch records to be produced at the head office. In central mode, he can do the verification. That is also possible. So about 25 lakhs, if the assurance service, turnover from assurance service exceeded 25 lakhs, in a branch, all the branches have to be visited by the, all the branches which have done more than 25 lakhs turnover, then everything has to be verified by the peer reviewer. And now how to report? Now he has visited, now he has to report the peer review report. Is reviewer satisfied with the system and procedures of yes? If it is yes, then he will submit the final report. In case if it is no, then reviewer sends a preliminary report. So in this preliminary report, I am not satisfied. Please add this. Then practice unit has to prepare has to rectify all the deficiencies and has to submit the same within 15 days of the receipt of the preliminary report. And non-compliance, suppose if there is any non-compliance by the practice unit, that has also to be rectified by the practice unit. Then now the peer reviewer has received the deficiency reconciliation rectification and the non-compliance rectification, and if he is satisfied, then he can report the same to the board. Final report can be submitted by the peer reviewer. In spite of that, if it is not submitted, the preliminary report is not replied to the preliminary report is not up to the satisfaction of the reviewer, then he can submit the report to the board with the reasons. We disagree with these following points. So they can give the final report along with the preliminary report, and against the preliminary report, what is the reply given by the practice unit, that has to be given by the reviewer to the board. In this manner, they can report. And this is a basic thing. Just check. We will go depth in other point of presentation. So with this, I am just stopping this preliminary review process presentation. I will meet you in another peer review presentation. Thank you for watching this presentation. Nandri, Vanakkam.